The mining colony of Kepler 442b had seen many strange things in its short existence, but nothing quite like James Mitchell's unusual family. The grizzled human foreman stood at the edge of the excavation site, his weathered hands resting on the controls of a massive ore extractor, while two sleek, obsidian-scaled creatures prowled nearby, each the size of a small shuttle and possessing enough raw power to tear through reinforced titanium plating. Liza Hendricks, the colony's xenobiologist, watched from her observation post with a mixture of fascination and concern. 3 months had passed since James had made his controversial decision, and the colony was still divided on whether he was a hero or completely insane. The Kythera had been apex predators on this world for millions of years before humans arrived. Standing nearly 4 meters tall at the shoulder, with razor-sharp claws and teeth that could pierce starship hull plating, they were the reason the initial survey teams had recommended against colonization. The corporate executives had overruled that recommendation. The rare Earth deposits were simply too valuable to ignore. Everything had changed during the 3rd week of operations. A pack of adult Kythera had attacked the outer perimeter, testing the colony's defenses. The automated turrets had done their job, perhaps too well. When the smoke cleared, they found not just the fallen adults, but 2 cubs, barely a month old, crying pitifully beside their deceased parents. "We should have them euthanized," Director 2, Walsh had declared during the emergency meeting. "They're too dangerous to keep alive." James had stood up slowly, his steel-gray eyes meeting each person in the room. "Those aren't monsters," he'd said quietly. "They're just babies who lost their parents because of us." Liza remembered the heated argument that followed. The director had cited safety protocols, corporate liability, and common sense. But James had been unmovable, offering to take full responsibility for the creatures. In the end, faced with James's threat to resign, and knowing that replacing their most experienced foreman would cost millions in delays, the director had reluctantly agreed to a trial period. Now, watching Kira and Shadow, as James had named them, Liza marveled at how much they had grown. Still juveniles, they already dwarfed their adoptive human father, but they followed him with the devotion of loyal dogs. James had somehow managed to hand-feed them, teach them basic commands, and most remarkably, train them to distinguish between threats and colony personnel. "Liza," James called out, gesturing for her to join him. "Come see what they've learned today." She made her way down the rocky slope, her boots crunching on the loose gravel. Kira, the larger of the 2 cubs, lifted her massive head and regarded Liza with intelligent amber eyes. Shadow, more playful by nature, approached and gently nuzzled her shoulder with enough force to nearly knock her over. "Easy, boy," James chuckled, placing a calloused hand on Shadow's snout. "Remember what we practiced about being gentle." The creature immediately backed away, settling into a sitting position that still put his head level with Liza's chest. "Their neural development is extraordinary," Liza observed, pulling out her tablet to take notes. "The bonding patterns they formed with you are unlike anything in the xenobiological databases." James scratched behind Kira's ear fin, producing a rumbling purr that vibrated through the ground. "They're not so different from us, you know. They want safety, food, companionship. They want to belong somewhere." A sharp alarm cut through the morning air, 3 short blasts followed by a long tone. Perimeter breach. Instantly, both Kythera were on their feet, their playful demeanor replaced by deadly focus. James's expression hardened as he activated his comm unit. "Mitchell here. What's the situation?" Director Walsh's voice crackled through, tinged with panic. "James, we've got a pack of adult Kythera approaching from the northern ridge. At least 6 of them, maybe more. They've disabled 3 of our perimeter sensors already." Liza felt her blood run cold. Adult Kythera hunting in a coordinated pack was every colonist's nightmare. Their automated defenses would slow them down, but these creatures had learned to adapt to find weaknesses in human technology. "All personnel to secure positions," James commanded into his comm. "I'm heading to the northern perimeter." "James, no!" Liza grabbed his arm. "You can't go out there, it's suicide." He looked down at her with that same calm expression he'd worn in the meeting 3 months ago. Those people are my responsibility. This colony is my responsibility. Kira and Shadow flanked him as he strode toward his heavy transport vehicle. But instead of climbing into the driver's seat, James paused and looked at his two companions. "You two stay here," he said firmly. "Protect Liza." For the first time since Liza had known them, the cubs disobeyed. Kira let out a low growl and moved to block James's path to the vehicle. Shadow positioned himself on the other side, effectively trapping the human foreman between them. James stared at the two creatures for a long moment, and Liza could have sworn she saw understanding pass between them. "All right," he said finally. "But we do this my way." 20 minutes later, the attacking pack encountered something they had never faced before. Two of their own kind, fighting alongside humans. Kira and Shadow moved with lethal grace, their adopted father directing their movements from his transport. While the colony's defense systems provided supporting fire, the battle was brief but decisive. The attacking Cathara, confused and outmaneuvered by the unprecedented alliance, retreated into the wilderness. As the dust settled, Director Walsh approached the unlikely trio. His face was pale, but his expression held newfound respect. "How did you know they would fight for us?" he asked James. The foreman looked up at his two towering companions, now grooming each other affectionately, despite being covered in dust and scratches. "Because they understand what I understood 3 months ago," James replied. "Family isn't about what species you are. It's about who you choose to protect." Liza smiled as she watched Shadow playfully pounce on his sister, their massive forms moving with surprising gentleness now that the threat had passed. The colony had learned an important lesson today about the nature of loyalty, family, and the courage to see beyond the surface of things. In the growing darkness of Kepler 442b's evening, 3 unlikely guardians settled in for the night. Proof that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from weapons or walls, but from the simple act of caring for those who have no one else.